Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around I've got a little bit of everything in the video, and most of it has to do with the fact that yesterday and to a certain extent early today was for me a most unusual day.
It's a most unusual time.
I'm going to explain that, and I'm going to tell you how I turn a negative into a positive. I'm also going to do a bit of a haul of movies and one movie book that I've picked up recently. But to get to the most unusual day, yesterday I was feeling what we in Australia call rat shit. I was not feeling well at all, and so I put on my smartwatch, which is a nice Google Pixel 2 smartwatch, and my heart rate was about 145 beats a minute consistently over most of the previous 24 hours before I did something about it. I have what's called atrial fibrillation, which means that sometimes my heart rate is a slow tom-tom beat, and sometimes it's Buddy Rich on amphetamines. And it doesn't regulate very well at times. So I went to the local hospital, and they immediately hooked me up to an ECG machine, and they went, "Yep, your heart's racing." And I went, "Yeah, no, I've got to watch." So I ended up getting put into a short stay room overnight in a hospital. And I've never been in a hospital overnight since I was born. I was in a hospital overnight when I was born, back in the dim dark days in a hospital that no longer exists, but I'd never actually been in overnight. And I had a whole room to myself. Yes, there was a curtain at the front of it and blocking it off from the rest of the short stay unit, but it was pretty good. It was quite large. Had my own toilet, big, reasonable sized hospital bed, beepy machines, all that kind of stuff, and I'm hooked up to the beep machines, Steve Austin style, the lead major Steve Austin, not the wrestler. And so I'm there while they test my heart rate overnight. Blood pressure was fine, the blood work they did on me was all fine, but my heart rate was going pretty rat shit bad. And so I've got a whole bunch of remotes. You've got the remote that makes the bed go up, you've got the remote to call the nurse if suddenly you start spewing blood. I also get a remote for a TV set, which is hanging above the bed, angled like that, so it's really comfortable to watch from the bed. So I'm bored. I read about the first quarter of June while I was in the waiting room and having the ECG and in the short stay unit. Never read Frank Herbert's June, so I'm really rocking reading June. Kind of got over that, and then went, I wonder what's on TV. So I grabbed the remote. You've got all of the usual prosaic, what they call linear channels, the new name for what used to be called free-to-air TV channels. So I scroll through them and I find a bunch of movie channels. And I think, I've got to stay here overnight. I'm not going to sleep because it is quite noisy and it's a very alien environment. I know I'm not going to sleep here. So what I did instead was I made myself a movie marathon and I watched movies. And the cool thing is you got a remote attached to the wall which changes the channels for the TV. It's actually attached by a fairly thick cable to the wall. And the speaker for the TV is in the remote, so you just put the remote on the pillow next to you. The dialogue comes into your ear. It's not disturbing anybody else in the hospital, which I kind of like. I thought it was a very cool application of technology. So I'm there and watching movies, and I'm going to tell you the movies I watched. Before I do the haul, I'm going to tell you how I turned what could be quite a scary thing into a net positive for me and my channel and kept me in my comfort zone. I'm not going to be watching Rules of the Game. I'm not going to be watching Ozu's Tokyo Story in a hospital on a streaming movie channel on a television set hanging from the ceiling. But I watched 4 movies and I kind of liked it. They were a bit of fun. 3 of them I'd seen, one of them I hadn't. First off, I watched Fast X, because Fast X is meathead silliness taken to 11. You got the whole Dom Toretto crew there. You got crazy stunts, the physics of which never work at all. But there's a certain enthusiastic hyper-realism to the Fast X movie that I liked, and I kind of grooved on that. I'm hooked up there. I've got a big jug of ice water to hydrate myself, which turned out to be the problem, dehydration. And dehydration, because of my atrial fibrillation, elevates my heart rate to a level where it can cause my blood pressure to go through the cellar. I found this out the next day when I talked to the doctor. Very nice doctor. Everybody's really nice. If you don't live in a country with socialised medicine, I recommend you move. Cost me nothing. Even though the breakfast was pretty shitty. Cost me nothing. Got a TV set. watch Dom Toretto do stupid, impossible things with cars. And I kind of liked that. It was a lot of fun just sitting there watching Vin Diesel go, "It's about family."
But what's real is family.
A lot. Next up, I rewatched Megan, the wonderful AI robot horror movie from, I think, 2023.
It's murder on the dance floor.
Not the uncut version, but the prosaic version that came out before the uncut version that I've got on Blu-ray. And it was fun to rewatch. Just I got into the zone of seeing the little bits of the script where the characters aren't perfect. They aren't. Here's somebody who's on an enormous learning curve suddenly being a guardian for her niece, even though what she essentially is an AI geek who creates this killer girl robot. And I really enjoyed watching that again. It was a lot of fun. Even though I'm not convinced that Ronnie Cheng is a good actor at all, he's shouty and has one tone. And if there's a weakness in that movie, it's definitely Ronnie Cheng. Good comedian. Actually seen him in public when I was doing radio for the ABC. He was a really polite and kind of nice guy from what I could see. Then I watched Captain America the Winter Soldier. I watched it mostly for the stunts and the action and the way it's in the middle of the heyday of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it works really well. Chris Evans as Captain America is a subtler character than I remember him being. And so I enjoyed watching that. And then I watched a movie that people either love or hate. It's a Guy Ritchie film called Operation Fortune Rue de Guerre, which is a 2023 spy action film starring the Statham, and I'm increasingly loving the Statham. Also has Aubrey Plaza, Carrie Elwes is in there as well. Hugh Grant playing a really nasty billionaire called Greg, who's a sleazy AF. Josh Hartnett's in there as well, Eddie Marsan. It doesn't look like it's a particularly big budget movie because some of the CGI on this boat in particular looks a bit ropey, but it was entertaining. I kind of like it. And what I found out when I got home was a lot of the dialogue in that movie was improvised by the actors, and that kind of gives it a certain quirkiness. Guy Ritchie movies are, for the most part, kind of entertaining even when you don't love them. And Operation Fortune Rue de Guerre was a bit of fun. I didn't mind it at all. It's kind of like somebody tried to do a Mission Impossible movie on a tenth of the budget, and I'm there for that. I didn't get to see all of it because the doctor came in and said you can go home, but I watched most of it, and I'm going to have to find it on a streaming service. I think it's on Amazon, and just go for it and enjoy that movie. Sitting in a hospital bed, kind of bored, I didn't mind it. It was unexpected fun. I'd heard bad things about it, but the bad things didn't manifest when I was watching it. So, got the good news from the doctor. Keep hydrated, don't eat salty foods, live my best life. The other funny thing about yesterday was I actually joined a gym. On the day I go to a hospital because my heart is pounding itself to bits. Got the okay to go to the gym, so thumbs up there. But I've also got a few very, very cheap movies in the last week or so. And I thought I'd run through them and a movie reference book I recommend, particularly for science fiction geeks. But I'll go through the movies first. I'll do the Blu-rays and then the DVDs, which is the reverse of what I usually do. And I picked all of these up, consider it just like pocket change or money I found down the back of a couch, because that used to be fun. I miss money down the back of the couch. Everybody's just tapping and using digital payment these days, but I think that a certain amount of our income should be just taken from us and jammed down the back of a couch for us to find serendipitously when we want to buy cheap Blu-rays at thrift stores. I've got Hamlet, the Laurence Olivier Hamlet. Let's see who else is in there. Basil Sidney, Gene Simmons, Felix Aylmer. It is from the 1940s or early 1950s. I'll put up here where it is. Not much in the way of extras. I like Laurence Olivier Shakespeare stuff. I really like his Henry V. I haven't seen his Othello, and I'm kind of wary about that because of the blackface. But I thought I'd give his Hamlet a go. I'm going to watch this before I watch Mel Gibson's version. Again, I've got that thing where I tune my ear to Shakespearean language pretty well after a few minutes. And then if I've got the ear tuned, I can always wind back and rewatch the first bit I didn't understand again. Looking forward to that. There's the back of it in wonderful black and white, so you know it's good. Got that for like $2 or $3. Bonus. Because I was getting things cheap from this store, which is in Sunshine Plaza, which is a shopping centre a little bit away from here, and I was there to see June 2 anyway. Picked up the Josh Trank Fantastic Four, which I don't have a copy of. And because I'm a superhero geek, as we all know, I thought I'd pick that up while it was dead cheap. There's a few extras on it. It's one of the great misfires in Marvel kind of intellectual property history. He was a director who was dumped in the deep end of doing a large budget movie where maybe he wasn't ready for it. Sometimes you learn a lot about movie making from monumental failures in cinema. And the Fantastic Four that Josh Trank did about 5 or 6 years ago is definitely one of those. The next one is a Roland Emmerich film, so you know it's going to be silly. 10,000 BC, didn't have a copy of it. Wanted to rewatch it because these epic Roland Emmerich movies, entertaining at a certain level, and they often use quite good special effects. These are strapline on the back. 10,000 BC rocks. It's an adrenaline rush from start to finish, which is such a... It sounds like it's generated by AI, but it wasn't. A few special features on the back. When I'm in the mood for a meathead action film, it's nice to have a bunch of these ones lying around so you can just pop the disc in, sit back, have a non-salty snack, have a bevy, and just enjoy yourself. So because I got the first one, this one came up very cheaply on Blu-ray, and I thought, well, I'm kind of leaning towards getting Blu-rays wherever possible rather than DVDs because of quite a stupid reason. Blu-rays sit better on the shelf than a DVD does. They're not as tall. Independence Day Resurgence, which I know is a piece of crap. And because this is the Australian one, they put Australia on the bottom there. Well, it wasn't great. It was silly. But I've got the first one. I got this for a couple of bucks. So here's Liam Hemsworth, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, and a bunch of others, including Brent Spiner. I may well do a video at some stage comparing and contrasting the two Independence Day movies, one of which is the best piece of cinema since Citizen Kane. This is one of the most quotable comedies of the last 40 years. A lot of people quote it, including his middle-aged geek girl. So I Married an Ex-Murderer. This one's an ex-rental copy I picked up. Didn't have a copy of it. Nancy Travis is quite cute in this. It's also got an Australian actor, Anthony Palia, in it. Mike Myers, Amanda Plummer's in there as well. Brenda Fricker playing his mum is a lot of fun. So I didn't have a copy of that, so I thought I would get one. And it's got that little tag thing up there, which they always put on ex-rental copies. Yep, it's from Easy DVD. You can see the Easy DVD in Murrelbach, way over the other side of Melbourne. It's in a good nick. There's no scratchy bits on the disc. So for a couple of bucks, I thought I'd pick that up. And I may well watch that with Middle-Aged Geek Girl at some stage in the future. Next one is a Blu-ray and DVD, it says here. And it is indeed. Good solid adaptation of a John le Carré novel. It's the second version of this. There was a TV miniseries done of it. But it's the Gary Oldman version of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I picked up for literally $1 on Blu-ray. It's got Benny Cumberbatch in it, Mark Strong, Toby Jones, John Hurt, Tom Hardy. Pretty much got all the swinging dicks of English cinema. There are a bunch of Blu-ray exclusives, interviews and things like that. I enjoyed this one, and there's the back cover, and it's quite thin too. It's slightly thinner than a normal Blu-ray case for some reason, which I'm not unhappy with. Shelf space, of course. And I bought and I'm assembling a whole bunch of new shelving for my collection up in the back room. And when I'm done, I'll be able to film up there and have a really slick background for the videos. It's not going to be all the junk in the man cave here and these two posters. But yeah, glad I got that. Definitely a solid part of my collection. Then I got one which I know I've got on, I think, DVD. But I got a Blu-ray steelbook of it for $1, which I didn't know there was one. It's got two versions of the film with alternate endings, which means that the screenwriters and the director didn't know what the hell they wanted to do. The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Tony Hopkins in it. Emily Blunt, Hugo Weaving. The legend is alive, it says. Nothing like a good werewolf movie. And some have said this is nothing like a good werewolf movie. But it is a nice solid steelbook. There's the front. There's the back. I think this one's definitely a European one because it's got all the European censorship information on it. Don't know why it was in an op shop in Newport, but it was. I'm not a steelbook guy. I don't necessarily need my movie collection to be bullet resistant, but this one's a nice package, and I'll definitely replace the DVD I've got of this with this steelbook Blu-ray. The second last of the Blu-rays I've got for you is a Luc Besson movie which kind of gets forgotten. And I don't remember anything about it, even though I know I've seen it back in the day. So cinematically stunning, brilliantly acted, which is interesting because Luc Besson got Me Too'd heavily in France, even though France is having a belated discussion about whether directors and actors have the right to do things to female cast members which are egregious and not on in any culture. I like the movie. I remember liking it, but I don't remember anything about it. Angel A, which is kind of cool. I love that cover. I think that cover's an interesting choice. And again, this is a European copy. And there's the back of it. Definitely going to watch it while being aware that Luc Besson is a piece of shit. Now, the last one has never had a Blu-ray release in Australia because Disney dropping out of the Australian market. This is the second movie in my annual pilgrimage where I see movies with my nephew Billy, who's going to be 14 in a few weeks. And so we go to the movies whenever we get together in between our birthdays. His is in March, mine's in April. And so we go and see movies. The first one we saw was the really shit Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg in it, which he loved. He was 12 at the time. But for his 13th birthday, we went and saw The Creator, the Gareth Edwards science fiction movie, which is pretty friggin' good. I enjoyed it a lot. And it didn't get a Blu-ray release in Australia because Disney are a bunch of inbred coprophagic mongrels. But I went out and used a little bit of my Amazon associate credit to get a European Blu-ray of it. Nice slipcover on it. There's the back of the cover. From the director of Rogue One, I wouldn't use that as a credit. The Creator has an interesting thing about it, and they did something fantastic with the special effects, which hadn't been done before. There's a lot of robots and AI in there's a lot of robots and AI in this, and a lot of it's set in kind of rural parts of Asian countries. Gareth Edwards shot a whole bunch of kind of prosaic stuff, people making food in villages and in the sets that they created, and people playing with children and things like that. Shot all of that stuff. And in some of those scenes, which are part of the world, which is a very textured world that he creates for this movie, he then replaced some of the people with robots and some of the people with kind of android people with cybernetic enhancements. So you get the naturalistic acting of people playing with their grandchildren or walking around or walking in rice fields and things like that. But some of the characters are then replaced with very, very good artificial intelligences who are modeled on the actions of the human being. So they give these robots and AIs a naturalistic feel because they were actually played by human beings, not in mocap suits, but just in their normal clothing. And they found it was a lot cheaper to create those characters without the mocap suits, just by getting Industrial Light and Magic to replace those particular people or enhance those particular people with AI stuff and with robot stuff. Better movie than a lot of people said it was. And I wanted a copy of it because A, it's something that Billy and I watched and I like it. But also, it deserves a physical media release in Australia and is never going to get one. So I had to get that. We're in the last stretch now. We've got the DVDs in the book. This one's an Australian TV series, which is filmed for the ABC. It's a whole bunch of stories with different directors, all of whom are First Nations people, about Redfern in Sydney, which is, and has been for a very long time, one of the hubs of Indigenous Australians, mostly Gadigal people, but also people from all over other mobs living in inner city Sydney. This is them telling their stories. Now, there's a thing called Redfern Now, with Deborah Mailman, Wayne Blair, Leah Purcell, Stephen Curry, and Aaron McGrath. This is really great storytelling, modern setting, and it talks about the people who lived in Redfern. Now, I've got a long connection with Redfern. My grandparents lived there for 30-odd years, between the 1930s and the 1960s. I played in Redfern when I was a kid to visit the grandparents, and we'd go and play in abandoned houses and things like that. And so I've got a very visceral connection with Redfern. And Redfern Now, on physical media, it does stream on ABC iView here in Australia, but it's going to disappear one day. And I wanted a copy of this because I'm a big supporter of First Nations filmmaking and creative stuff, because we stole the country from them. It's really something that I should have in my collection. I feel that it's a part of the broader culture of Australia to embrace the creative contribution that our First Nations people make. Glad I got that for $1, ridiculously cheap. The next one's a 3-movie set of Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies. You've got that kind of white saviour thing with Tarzan, which has always been a part of the character. But there they are there. And in this one we've got Tarzan Triumphs from 1943, Tarzan's Desert Mystery from 1948, and Tarzan and the Huntress from 1947. So they're later Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies. But they're a bit of fun. And I got 3 of them for $1. All on one disc, which means they're not going to be the highest resolutions. There's even a little biography of Johnny Weissmuller there. Interesting thing to put in there. And you've got the zebra striped disc there. This one was put out by Magna Pacific, which is not the most nuanced of Australian distribution labels. I don't even know if it's still going. But over the last 20 years ago, they were putting out everything that nobody else was putting out on physical media here in Australia. But I picked up that. Not a bad little buy. And then I got 2 movies which are from the Walt Disney Family Collection. Now these ones aren't getting re-released on physical media, particularly here in Australia. But I thought I'd pick them up because they were the kind of stuff that turned up on Saturday matinees when I was going to see Saturday matinees as a kid. First one is Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which has Sean Connery in it apart from anything else. Who else is in there? Janet Munro, Jimmy O'Day, Kieran Moore, Estelle Winwood, Walter Fitzgerald. It's one of those American-Irish films, and the fact that they got a Glaswegian actor to play one of the main characters just because he is kind of sort of Celtic is a bit of fun. Used a lot of forced perspective to get the little people into this movie. There's some really nice in-camera special effects work in this one. But I picked that up for $1, and why the hell not? And this one, the Swiss Family Robinson. It's like Lost in Space, but not on space. Good cast. You've got John Mills, Dorothy McGuire, James MacArthur, Janet Munro again, and Cecil Hayakawa, Tommy Kirk, Kevin Corcoran, Cecil Parker. Directed by Ken Anakin. Lots of extras on that one, which is kind of cool. Again, these ones aren't going to be on physical media again. It may well have turned up in one of those big 100th anniversary Disney box sets, but as an individual movie, it's not going to show up on physical media. The last one I got is a movie I don't like, but I wanted to review for the channel, so I got it for $1. Saw it in cinemas when it came out, and everybody was shitting themselves about it. And a lot of people love it. I don't. E.T. Didn't have a copy of this, but for $1 I picked it up because I wanted to review it. In fact, you can see the $1 sticker down there. Hang on. See the $1 sticker down there. A couple of bonus features in it. We all know it. We all know the fact that Spielberg CGI'd the guns out of it, but this predates that, and it has the guns in it, so it's an unreconstructed version of E.T. There's your disc. I remember one of the reviews in Australia of E.T. when it came out, called him a buff-headed little bastard, which I would go along with. Now, while we're talking about Spielberg and Lucas, this is an interesting reference book that I'm using to research a video I'm going to do about how there's a mythology around the creation of Star Wars, the movie. And it's a biography by John Baxter, a fine Australian writer, wrote science fiction, also did a lot of good movie books. Fairly nice guy. He's now living in Paris, the lucky bastard. George Lucas, a biography by John Baxter. A detailed account of the making of the movies and a motherload of delicious industry gossip. This has got a lot of stuff which shows the mythology around George Lucas and his creations is indeed just that. It's mythology. It's not the proven archival truth of the making of all of these movies. It's kind of the man who shot Liberty Valance, print the legend, where the truth is much more complex and interesting. And I'm using that as my primary reference source for something I'm going to do about Star Wars, which may well piss off a lot of Star Wars fans. but I'm going to try to ground what I write, not in my own bias, which is a part of me, but in stuff that has been proven and has evidence in a bibliographical index at the back of this book. So look forward to that. It's going to come out sometime this year, but I don't know when. So that's what I've got for you. I've got a haul. I've got a story of turning a hospital visit into a movie marathon. I've got a book there, and I've got another video in the can when I didn't think I was going to get a video out today, because I do a lot of these things last minute. I'd love to be more organised and have a few videos stacked up, but at this stage I just don't. A lot of people are going to be sending through comments saying, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you, all that kind of stuff. It was overwhelmingly a positive experience for me. Yeah, a little bit scary, but I did the right thing. I got the help I needed. I found out what I need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again, and I am going to be doing the right thing with the encouragement of Middle-Aged Geek Girl. But I like the haul I got this time. Very eclectic, very different, a lot of some different bits and pieces. And I didn't spend a lot of money on them, except for the creator, which I paid a bit of a premium, topping up just a little bit the Amazon associate credit that I have. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. Maybe go into the playlists and look at some of the other haul videos I've done. There's a lot of weird and wonderful stuff in there, and I try to be passionate about them. You can also support the channel by donating at the YouTube channel page, or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Got Science Fiction Saturday coming up again as usual at the end of the week. And as always, I'm going to have a couple of interesting things there to talk about. I normally do a double feature. Maybe I'll do some 1960s rather than 1950s science fiction this time. Until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Look after your health. It's important that you do. And I want you to have a great, healthy, and wonderful life. I'll catch you next time.